Okay, good evening, everyone. I would like to call the special council meeting of August the 14th to order. And I would like to begin today by welcoming back our CAO, Ms. Sullivan, and also joining our team as our corporate officer is Ms. Carolyn Machada. Machada, thank you. I was practicing on the way up and then I forgot. I would also like to extend a word of gratitude to Mr. Brent Blackhall, who is handling a number of hats during the absence. He's on a well-deserved vacation right now, so we wish him a good time. And many thanks to all the district staff for pulling together in this very busy time for all of us. So on that note, we will be getting started here, and we do have a new business item to add. It's 4.3. So I'd look to council for approval of the agenda with the inclusion of item 4.3. Moved by Councillor Berger, seconded by Councillor Parkinson. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Okay, we have adoption of minutes from July 10th, regular council meeting minutes. Moved adoption by Councillor Berger. Seconded by Councillor Parkinson. Are there any corrections or questions from councillors? Nope. See none. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried unanimously. And July 24th, special council meeting minutes. Moved adoption by Councillor Parkinson. Seconded by Councillor Loggins. Any corrections or questions? See none. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. And lastly, 4.3 on the yellow pages is the Development and Engagement Workshop Notes. This was held on August the 9th with all folks interested in that particular committee. We've held a workshop. We have another one scheduled for the first Wednesday in September. So there's notes here for your reading interest when you have a moment. So a motion to receive, please. Moved by Councillor Berger and seconded by Councillor Loggins. Question, Councillor Loggins.
Not a question. I just noticed the SWOT analysis, and I was wondering if I wasn't at the meeting, so perhaps it was discussed, but a SOAR analysis also discusses results. So I was curious if anything was discussed at this group to discuss what type of results they were expecting or might want to see.
So what sort of the intent of doing so was to look at the building and development area in particular and to come up with some focused points for either the workshop or a committee to delve into further. So sort of to create a task list through the conversations of where we need to sort of drill down a bit more. And those outcomes did come up. So there was a few things that were identified under item 6, the flow chart, a visual to help sort of understand the process, the forms and requirements at each step, and then that workshop will be focused on that area specifically. And then it's likely as other participants read through this, they might find other things will emerge, but that was the main point takeaway for the next meeting. So it was successful in that regard. So thanks for the question. Okay. Anything else from members of council? See none. All those in favor of receipt? Opposed? Motion's carried. Okay, so that brings us to item 5. We have our public question and comment period. This section of the agenda is reserved for any member of the public that would like to speak on any item on this evening's agenda, including new business. We have allocation of 2 minutes per person, and so if you could please come forward. Please turn on the microphone, and we just need your name, address, and if you can let us know which item in particular so we can get to that relevant section. Thank you.
Rob Pearce, 2407 Poplar Drive. It's to do with item 8.1, the Wadams Way, Lot A. I was here a couple of months ago, and you'll have to forgive me for the not knowing the proper terminology, but staff said, okay, yeah, go ahead, we're going to designate this land C3PO. At that time, I'm just making up numbers, so I don't know what it really was. Councilman Berger said, no, it should be R2D2. There was a discussion, a vote. Yes, it was to be R2D2, and now I see that in that time frame, I don't know if it's anything's been done since then with that land, but now we're on hook for possibly $50,000 to clean it up. I can't help but think that had we not wasted time, and that's how I see it, and I'm not alone on these designations, I don't know what they're all about, but that's $50,000 we've just thrown away, possibly more, possibly less, but these things usually tend to be more than less. So I find that a little bit disturbing. It seems to be a lot of talk and not a lot of action.
Okay, so can I clarify? So we had a discussion as to what type of zoning, whether it was town center zoning, and then we ended up resolving with a public, a P2, P3, a public use zone on the land. Irregardless of what zoning designation the land holds, we are still the landowner responsible for this land. We've been, our fire crew have been dealing with numerous calls to this area because of fires that are starting and trespass and the like. So as landowners, we now have to take responsibility for the land. There's also been a lot of crime activity occurring there as well that we can't necessarily ignore. So one thought was to do a bit of a cleanup and remediation. This particular section, there is a section of land that is still reserved for the library, which we hope to get more information on their plans going ahead. But in terms of the balance of the land, we still don't have an overall plan for what the land is, but given the amount of time our emergency personnel are responding to it, this is what triggered council to look at that.
And it's needed to be done. I'm not denying that. But why can't we just get going and break ground on this? Like, what's the holdup?
But what would we put on it?
Well, what's the holdup with the library? I don't understand what, like, we're designating land and, have we come up with an agreement yet on what we're calling it? And what's the holdup with the library putting plans in? Have we been in contact? Because that's going to keep going. Whether you put signs up or not, people are still going to go in there.
No, and I totally appreciate it, but they're not also using all of the lands.
No, but if people are there, you get started, that tends to move people along. Now, yes, you're moving the problem somewhere else, but I see $50,000 just.
And it's possible, though, that even, we'll get more from the library board likely in the fall. Our CAO will be contacting library staff just to find out what their timeline is, if it's shifted or not. Their plans was to have it constructed and open to the public in 2018. The rest of the lands, though, still would remain as they are.
But with the library there, chances are you're not going to have the problem with the squatters and the fires and hanging out because there's more public.
Maybe. But either way.
But, right now, we got nothing.
I know. But what I'm saying, that's why when we can take your comments certainly into consideration when we get to that item on the agenda.
All right.
But for now,
okay.
We're waiting.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Pearce. Other members of the public for tonight's agenda, please.
Ellen Lewers, 5526 Road. No, 5526 Sooke Road. This is in your July 10th minutes, but the highway maintenance contract extension. And you're not reviewing or rewriting the contract with highways, and I thought that was a bit of an issue with main road, and that they're not cutting the roads back far enough, and there's an issue with sight lines and things like that because this hasn't been dealt with, and also that we have parks committees cutting property that main road was supposed to be doing. So I find that kind of odd that you haven't, it was talked about that you haven't talked with the contract or talked anything about the contract to change it or to make sure that it was updated or ask them to do further work rather than what they're doing, because now we're paying out of our park staff to do work that should be highways or main roads jobs.
Okay, my understanding on that is we've extended it for now so that we can have more time. Our staff can actually examine deeper into what actual service levels we expect. Perhaps I could ask the staff just to comment very briefly on do we have park staff doing work on the highways, or I think this is a good opportunity. We got some feedback from yourself, Ms. Lewers, so that when we do look at what a more fulsome contract would look like in the coming years, that we can be better prepared. We didn't want to just do it quickly and not have the right service in place that our growing town needs. Mr. Howitt?
Thank you, Your Worship. through to Ms. Lewers. The contract that we've renewed down to through to 2019 is the exact same contract that we've always had. The endeavor, as the mayor has pointed out, was to give us time to evaluate what a new contract would look like and what service levels mayor and council would think would be appropriate for the area. Until that time comes, we'll just leave the contract as is. The contract does have some specifics in it right now for some side brushing on some of the roads, which we've asked Main Road to implement, and they will be. But in times where we get a lot of pressure for a specific area, we can ask, and we have asked our Parks Department to go out there and do some hand brushing where we think it's really specifically necessary. But it's not a matter of course at this time. It's just on specific issues that become an issue related to sight distance and things like that, but it's not the norm.
Okay.
Okay.
Did you have another question or comment?
No, that's really a big concern, as we talked about before, and I think someone called me about the problem too with fires, because it's not being cut back far enough, so the issue with fires is also a problem. So I would hope that we're looking at doing that sooner rather than later, because
I think
2019 is a long time.
But in terms of Highway 14, that is a provincial.
Oh, I agree.
That's provincial jurisdiction. That's something I'd be more than happy to take up with the ministry.
I agree, but
Yeah.
I'm talking about other roads as well.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Lewers. Other members of the public for tonight's agenda, please.
Carrie Cavers, 2351 Demamiel Drive. So I'm here in regards to item 10.4 under the correspondence for the Wild Coast Expo. We, being the president of the Sooke Region Chamber of Commerce, I wanted to make sure that I was here to be able to answer any questions for you in regards to the letters we submitted looking for your support with this event that we're bringing to Sooke for 2018. It's a new trade show event that's going to be highlighting the Sooke region and the lifestyle that we have to offer. So all of our outdoor recreation opportunities, the different service providers that we have, the tour operators, everything like that. It's scheduled to be April 7th and 8th at Sea Park. It's a 2-day event. We wanted to hold it over 2 days to make sure that we maximized the exposure to our region and to benefit our accommodation providers as well. The first day is trade show, so typical booths throughout the arena with different vendors, tour providers, both local and larger. And then the second day would be a swap and shop, as well as the opportunity for people who have come to the expo to go on tours that they had signed up for. We are moving ahead with the event. We have a website that is pretty much completed. It'll be launched by the end of this month. It's online right now. I put it up this evening if you want to have a look. It'll go down tomorrow so that I can continue to work on it. And so we have approached different groups to support us in this, the district, CERTA, the museum. We feel it's important to have all of that collaboration working on this. So that's me and what I'm here for. Any questions?
Thank you very much, Ms. Cavers. Sorry for the blinking timer light. I found it a bit distracting, but I know that you presented just fine, so thank you for that. We did receive the correspondence in here, so we can, we'll be deliberating on that, and then we can see if there's any further questions. But I don't want to keep you here all evening, so was there anything top of mind for council? Just since you're here in the hot seat, and I suspect we'll move along quickly, but in the event that we don't, I just wouldn't want you to need to leave before we deliberate. Ms. Parkinson then, or pardon me, Councillor Parkinson.
Through you, Your Worship. What were you expecting from the district to do?
Well, at this point in time, we're looking for just initial support of that you back the event and that it's happening. We would love to be able to display that on the website with the district logo. There will be different levels of sponsorship and both financial and in kind, so contra support, that kind of thing. And it was something that we wanted to work with the district on to, once the initial support is gained, to see how involved you want it to be and where that would lie. So there would be a further conversation required.
Councillor Loggins?
Thanks for presenting. I just wanted to ask what the target market is for the Expo, because it sounded like there were tours set up and that sort of thing. So who is being invited and how is that looking?
Our marketing efforts will be focused largely on Nanaimo South. We feel that that's a large enough market to bring a good draw. There will be special discounts and whatnot for local Sooke region residents, so people who want to exhibit in the trade show as well as attend. And then we do already have a lot of interest from magazines that are throughout BC, so we'll have a wider reach than what we originally anticipated as well, so a lot of people will be coming over from the mainland too. It's a really great opportunity given what we have here to really showcase that, and so the demographic that we'd be looking for are people who are already into that lifestyle, and that this is their thing. There's not anything like this that's anywhere on the island that is comprehensive, that would include fishing, biking, horseback riding, sailing, all of the activities together.
Anything? Councillor Berger?
Yes, thank you. Thanks for presenting. So when I first read your letter, I thought similar to Councillor Loggins, in like what was sort of your target focus of the Expo. And reading through it, it says you're basically looking for everybody. Like you want people that would visit here, people that would want to live here, as well as business owners. So I guess I think it's a great event, and I think it's awesome that you're going to put something forward. I support it in principle, but I think before we deliberate on anything further, we need to see what it is. So being that it's April, if we could get like maybe some further correspondence from you as to what the sponsorship looks like, what your levels are, how much they cost, what could the district do in kind. I mean, I'm sure that we'd be more than happy to advertise on our own district website as well. But unfortunately, I can't make a decision on what kind of sponsorship we give when we don't really know what that looks like. So that would be my comment.
Of course. At this point in time, we were just looking for essentially, sorry, baby brain, I lose words, but an endorsement of sorts that you like the event, you want it to come, and that we would be able to put your letter of support, be able to put your logo on our website saying that you're with us on that. And then again, wanting to make sure everybody that we work with on a sponsorship level, we want to ensure that they're getting out of this event what they want as well. So that was more of a conversation that we wanted to be able to have to see what it is that you feel that you could contribute financially or in kind, matching it up against what it is that we've generally outlined. We wanted to also give you a booth at the event to be able to promote the region too. And that's something that we're working with a few different groups on.
Go ahead, Councillor Berger.
Sorry, just one more follow-up.
Yeah.
So when you send back correspondence with respects to what sponsorship looks like, could we also I'd love to see a copy of, you said you're doing tours and things like that. So if we could I would like to personally have a copy of what the whole Expo will be showcasing.
For sure. The schedule for the Expo is evolving right now, so it'll largely depend on the different vendors that we have. They will be the ones who will be providing the different seminars and workshops and gear testing and whatnot. Once the website is live, it's something that will be a living document and will be updated as it goes. The overall idea of the event with the tours and whatnot, that would be something that like our fishing charter guys, if they were wanting to participate in the trade show, that they would have the opportunity to have people sign up with them and then take them out the next day, or possibly pre-sign up with them. So wanting to do it in the off season to help our tourism sector really boost the interaction that they have with the local market, as well as bringing in other people to experience that.
That's great, Ms. Cavers. Thank you for attending this evening and for speaking to this. I think that gives Council a bit more information for discussions tonight, and then we certainly look forward to receiving the other information when you have those ready. But it's a good heads up, and it gives us time to plan as well. So,
Sounds good. Thank you for your time.
thank you very much. Okay, anything further? Welcome. Okay. Is there anything further from anyone on this evening's agenda? Okay, so we will move on then into item 6. We have 6.1, bylaw number 672, Officers and Delegation of Authority 2017. So I see there's a request here to rescind third reading and then also to make an amendment. Is staff speaking to this or making any further comment? Okay, so we have the report here, and it's basically the position of corporate officer be added under the definition of department director, as the definition specifically relates to the district's purchasing policy that would be considered in 2017 and provides for spending authority. So we did the 3 readings, but in this case, need to rescind and then amend.
I'll move the suggestion of amendment.
Okay, so suggested action moved by Councillor Berger as stated, seconded by Councillor Loggins. Is there any discussion on the recommendation or the motion? See none. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Okay. 6.2, bylaw number 679, zoning amendment bylaws 2088 Charters Road. And we have a report here for information, and I believe our Director of Development Services is speaking. Thank you, Mr. Howitt.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm just going to go through the summary that was prepared in the report in support of this application. The purpose of this application is to rezone the property located at 20088 Charters Road from large residential R1 to medium lot residential R2 to create a one-lot subdivision. The property is approximately 1,672 square meters and is located within the sewer specified area. The property has frontage on both Charters and Kennedy roads, which provide adequate access. And the property is designated in the OCP to facilitate the rezoning. And at that point, I would just like to answer any questions of council that they may have.
Questions from councillors? Okay, so there is a recommendation, and that is that council give first and second reading to zoning amendment bylaw number 679 to rezone 2088 Charters Road from large lot residential R1 to medium lot residential R2. Move recommendation by Councillor Loggins, seconded by Councillor Parkinson. The first part, all those in favor? Opposed, as carried unanimously. And secondly, that a public hearing be scheduled for zoning amendment bylaw 679 in accordance with section 466 of the Local Government Act. Moved by Councillor Parkinson and seconded by Councillor Loggins. Any further discussion on that? See none. All those in favor? Opposed, it's carried unanimously as well. Thank you. 6.3, bylaw number 681, zoning amendment bylaw 2151, Allman Place. Ms. Johnson, are you speaking to this? Okay, we have the report, and welcome, Ms. Johnson. Just our screen in front of us is not live. No, it's not. It doesn't even look like it's on. Okay, we're live. Thank you, Ms. Johnson.
Good evening, Your Worship and members of Council. The application before you tonight is to rezone 2151 Allman Place from rural residential RU4 to rural RU2. The surrounding properties, with the exception of Allman Park and CRD land, are zoned rural residential with lot sizes ranging from 1.8 hectares and smaller. The subject property is one of the last largest properties left in this area at 5.598 hectares. The official community plan designates the property as gateway residential, an area where low-density residential growth is supported. The owners have applied to rezone to RU2 so that they can build a second single-family dwelling with a suite on the property. Their existing zone of RU4 allows for only one single-family dwelling and one suite, whereas the RU2 zone would allow for 4 single-family dwellings, and each single-family dwelling could have a suite. Subdivision would not be an option for this property if it was rezoned to RU2. However, this is not a concern for the owners, as they'd like to keep the property as one and within the family. The proposed rezoning is supported by the official community plan. No concerns have been received, and the applicant is present tonight at the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Any questions from council to staff? Okay. So the recommendation is that council give first and second reading to zoning amendment bylaw 6A1 to rezone 2151 Allman Place from rural residential RU4 to rural RU2. Moved by Councillor Parkinson and seconded by Councillor Loggins. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried unanimously. The second part is that council directs staff to schedule a public hearing for zoning amendment bylaw 6A1 in accordance with section 466 of the Local Government Act. Move recommendation by Councillor Parkinson and seconded by Councillor Loggins. Any further comments or questions? Seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Our next part, 7.1, development permit for 1806-6660 Sooke Road, the A&W. Oh, this is exciting. Let's see the report first. Go ahead, thank you.
A&W has applied for a development permit to upgrade the exterior features of the existing building. They have proposed no changes to the building site area, the parking, the site layout, the occupancy load, or the landscaping. It's just the exterior and some minor interior renovations. The design guidelines for the town center were carefully considered by the applicant, and they have considered the local context in the design by incorporating natural features into the building. The proposed changes will be a great improvement to the existing building. Real local stone will be used and placed under the windows along the front elevation facing Sooke Road and on both sides of the building. A hardy plank cedar mill product in textured boards painted in a chestnut brown color will be a feature on all sides of the building. In respecting the maritime history of Sooke, the applicant has proposed ribbed steel cladding as a main feature on the front elevation. The existing orange stucco that's currently existing will be repainted to a Sierra spruce brown, and an LED illuminated orange band will wrap around the building. The development guidelines of the OCP have been satisfied, and staff is recommending issuance of the development permit. And the applicant is also present tonight, should there be any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. I'm just wondering, as I look at the image in front of us, the bottom one on the left, is that a mural of people? I just can't read the writing. Like, is that the A&W family there, or is that, it is? Oh, okay. I wasn't sure if it was just showing the height of real people or if it was actual, so that's cute. Okay.
It's CNC out of material we glued the wall.
Okay. Yeah, no, I like it, so I was just making sure that that's what I wanted to confirm that that's what it was. Councillor Berger?
Yes, thank you. Through you to Ms. Johnson, I just have a question regarding signage. It says that it meets within our sign bylaw. However, at the very last part, it says a sign permit will be applied for later in the development. Is that because of the size of the 3 on the drive-through sign, or is everything still in sign compliance?
Through the chair, just the signage was shown as part of the development permit just so we can make sure the form and character fits. But we also check the areas just so later in the process, just as when they apply for a building permit, they apply for the sign permits, which is just for the when they're actually ready to put the signs on. And the fee is $100 for a facade and $25 for any replacement signage. So.
Anything else from members of council? So we do have a recommendation here, and that is that council authorize the issuance of development permit PLN 01321 to allow exterior renovations to the existing A&W building located on Lot 1, Section 10, Sooke District, Plan VIP 67155, except part in Plans VIP 87872 and EPP 49151.
Move recommendation.
Move recommendation by Councillor Loggins and seconded by Councillor Parkinson. Anything further from members of council? See none. I think this is great. This is really exciting. I really appreciate how they're taking the local context, and it's a very popular spot, as we all know. It's right in the center of our town. I think it'll give a nice Sooke welcome as people enter in. So appreciate the work that you've done behind this, and look forward to it seeing come about. I guess the other thing is the facility still open for business while this work is occurring?
We'll only close about 3 to 4 days, maybe a week.
Okay.
So
Just make sure your early morning coffee crowd knows. So it could be a big protest. Do you know when you're starting, sir?
We're actually doing all the AWs also in Victoria. So we're trying to get them lined up so we do all kind of one after another. So it's really going to depend on how fast mainly the Saanich municipality approves our building permits.
Okay, I think just get going on ours right away, and while the weather window is open, they can catch up later.
You guys have been so easy to work with. You will be one of the first ones we're doing because you're one of the first ones we have permits for.
Perfect. Okay, well, we look forward to that, but yeah, I would just let your morning crowd know that they need to, they won't have their coffee that week, but we look forward to seeing this happen. So call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried unanimously. That's great. Okay, 7.2, Kennedy Street South Drainage Design. Mr. Howitt?
Thank you, Your Worship. Excuse me. We were budgeted for some drainage works within the area. We've chosen to do this one. And the report summary, I think, speaks for itself. And if you have any questions, I'd like to answer them if I can. As you can see, we were concerned about the area at the end of Kennedy Road. There is some evidence of some significant land creep and overland flow. And with this, we put an RFP out. We got 2 proposals, one from Westbrook Engineering, and I'm not too sure who the other one was at this point in time. But Westbrook was the chosen by staff. It gave us a little more latitude and a lesser price. And it gives us the ability not only to look after the drainage, the geotechnical land creep, but it's also going to provide a walkway down off Kennedy down to Keynes Park. And from that, I'll answer any questions that council may have.
Okay, that's great. Questions from council to Mr. Howitt on the report? Okay, so the recommendation that council authorize staff to award a contract for a drainage design, including geotechnical analysis for the steep slope connecting Kennedy Street South through Water Street to Keynes Park, and approve Westbrook Consulting Limited as its successful proponent for the Kennedy Street South drainage design request for proposals.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Parkinson, seconded by Councillor Loggins. Questions or discussion on the recommendation or the motion? Councillor Berger.
Sorry, just one quick question. In reading the financial implications, we did have a certain amount, I don't have my budget in front of me, but we had a certain amount allocated this year for rainwater management. So I just wanted clarification. This is one of the ones that we've decided to do within that budget.
That's correct. Our overall budget, I believe, was $350,000, and this is one that was identified.
Great, thank you.
Very good. Anything else from council? All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried unanimously. Thank you. 7.3 is an item that comes from the Capital Regional District. There is a consent request, and we see their report here. And this has to do with the establishment of a new scholarship that honors Constable Sarah Beckett. So the CRD, when it impacts everyone, we provide our consent to we do or we don't consent to the adoption of the bylaw. We're part of the referral for that.
And so,
Councillor Parkinson? And
through you,
Lewers?
Your Worship, did they discuss this at the CRD meeting that you were at?
I think it was at the June board meeting.
And the members around the table were all in favor of it?
Yeah. And so then it just goes referred out.
Right.
Yeah.
Individually then,
Yeah.
for council to vote on.
Yeah.
I would like to move the recommendation.
Okay, move the recommendation as it's stated, and that's moved by Councillor Parkinson, seconded by Councillor Loggins. Any further question on, okay, all those in favor? Opposed, motion is carried. Okay. 8.1 brings us to Lot A 6671 Wadams Way cleanup. We have heard from a member of the public, and he shared his concerns with us kindly at the beginning. We do have our resolution here and just a report out from our fire chief, and perhaps I'll turn it over to Chief Mount for further insight.
Thank you, Your Worship. Since we last spoke about this Lot A cleanup, I have visited the site on many occasions. I've attempted to obtain 3 quotations and toured the site with 3 different companies. We also have obtained signs, and they're ready for pickup and delivery. These are no trespassing type signs that show no smoking and other kind of prohibited activities such as no campfires, etc. We have had a number of fires in this Lot A since the beginning of the fire season, really, and it has become problematic. And this cleanup process is really showing some sort of fire smart principles and practices being applied, and that was the direction that's been given to the 3 companies. Only one company has been willing to provide an estimate so far. One has refused, and the other one hasn't provided any feedback whatsoever. So all I have right now is an indication of the cost estimate, and that estimate in this report is what they have provided. It didn't include cleaning up the garbage. Myself and several of the support services fire crews were on there on a training night, and we plotted through GIS about 50 different items of garbage on 25 different locations throughout the property. And the one company that is providing quotation is willing to provide an optional estimate for that cleanup process as well. They are also revisiting their quotation because they think they can reduce it if they lean on the fire department to provide fire suppression coverage while they're cleaning it up. So looking for direction and guidance from council with respect of only seeing one company willing to provide an estimate. As per our purchasing policy, I attempted to obtain 3 quotations. It looks like it'll be in that cost range where it may need to go out to a tender, but it does look like there's not too much interest in companies willing or having the time to do this work right now.
Okay, so this, I understand, does not include removal of that concrete hut that is on the property. That would follow in a different report. This is just dealing with the fire hazard, the brush material, the garbage, not the garbage, more just the fire-wise. And I spoke with the staff sergeant a bit, and he supports this because he said it would improve sight lines and for the members to be able to see through the property and also to access the property as needed because it gets all this stuff out of the way. Garbage, I understand, is a bit of a hazmat nature just from...
Yeah, I can comment on the garbage. We didn't see anything that was immediately dangerous. The items that we have in there is everything from the remainders of a campfire to jackets to old toilets, a broken up boat, you name it. There's just a whole host of different types of garbage in there.
Old toilets?
Yes, busted toilets, and it's all been archived, and we have it in our GIS system. When I did tour the site with the fire crews, I did visit all the neighbors in the area as well, and they're very supportive that they'd like to see something done because of the activity there. They expressed concern about the fire hazard, and we're appreciative of how quickly we've been able to suppress incidents in that area. The companies have been given direction that we're looking at trying to fire smart it and maintaining the mature trees and just limbing them, removing ladder fuels, and the removal of brush / the alders and poplars would be the primary concern to make it more visible and less attractive for transient people to kind of more than temporarily locate there.
Okay, other questions from members of council? Council Parkinson?
So I agree that this area needs to be cleaned up. And with the piece that's in there where the concrete building, that will be presented to us at a later date, Your Worship, with the information on that removal. And then my question was in regards to Mr. Pearce's question, where you had brought up that we would look at maybe forming a committee to look at what we would like to see go in onto this land. And I was just wondering if you have any idea of when we could look at seeing something about that. Because we know the library is going to be there, but we would like to know what's going to happen with the rest of the land.
Okay, so sort of what I was thinking, my conversation with staff about this is this is sort of the first piece, and then, they're still looking into who could take out the shed or whatever and what cost impact that would be, but this was sort of the main one. In talking to the staff sergeant, he is of the opinion that this would help remedy the problem, that getting rid of the shed may or may not be necessary once this is done, but we can look, when we get costing on that, council can make that determination later. In terms of a committee of sorts, it was sort of, my thought was that when we actually see, what I was hoping to get is when the library confirms everything, this is that we kind of receive a report that says, here's the lot, here's where the library is going, this is where their access would be, this is roughly what a trail would be. I haven't really seen a full impact on it, and then at that time, suggestion would be, council, do you want to look at some sort of visioning project for the rest? Some feedback from members of council, they don't want to do anything with it. They just want to land bank it for the future. I don't know. We haven't had that conversation yet. I think it needs to come, but it was the case of we made a motion where we want the library to be. The library board has confirmed that they will go on that lot, and then we haven't really heard anything. They did a few public outreach, community consultation events, and now we're still waiting. We want to know their timeline. What was the outcome of these public input? Like, we just don't have any information. And so that's where once we receive that, hopefully in the fall, what their timeline is, and then we can then, I think, decide what we want to do. I mean, everyone seems to have a different vision, which is why I think we had a split vote as to what the zoning would be. We all seem to have our perspective, but we haven't had a conversation around the table, really, what is the balance of the land, that I can recall. Councillor Parkinson?
Further to that, has the library not been meeting all summer, or have they taken time off, and that's why we haven't heard from them?
They only meet quarterly.
Okay.
So I think it was their last, my understanding is they only meet quarterly. I'm not affiliated with it. I don't know if Councillor because you're the alternate if you receive anything, okay, is that they meet quarterly, and it was at their last meeting that was resolved, because otherwise it was going to be delayed. So I think maybe and that's probably why we haven't received an update. And then when we've talked about it, just for whatever reason, Councillor Ray hasn't been here, she probably would be able to give us more information. So likely back September, I know that she'll be looking to check in. We can get more information then. But that's, you know what I know, and that's not very much. Councillor Berger?
Yes, thank you. I agree with the frustration that Mr. Pearce has with the whole library and what's going on for. I mean, I think this whole table, I can assume, probably does too. It was a sense of urgency to get them a place once they figured out that they were going to build in Sooke, and then as far as my understanding, what I'm hearing from you is that nobody really knows where that urgency went to. So I'm wondering, maybe through you, we could direct staff to get in contact with the library board and say, what's happening, and In the meantime, speaking to this resolution, I wholeheartedly agree this is our piece of land. We now own it. We have to do our due diligence to keep it safe for the neighbors and commercial businesses that are around it. So I support going forward and cleaning it up to alleviate anything that could be a major fire. And with the dry weather we've had, it could be a major fire back there. So I support this, but I would love to put some pressure on the library board to say, let's get moving.
Councillor Ray has done her part as a trustee on the board, and then it turns over to staff. I've talked to our CEO, and she's contacting library staff, Vancouver Island Regional Library Board staff, to get that. And so I see our CEO nodding her head. She's back. She'll be engaging, and we expect. But there was a sense that their existing library lease on the lands that they lease right now is expiring, and that's why there was that urgency. So I think from a political or trustee level, board level, all that piece is done, and now it's staff is doing their part to go forward from there. So we'll look forward to getting an update there. And then I think we've been fortunate not to have a major fire. As the chief had said, the response is quick, suppression is there, water is there, it's in close proximity to where the hall is located, and for those reasons we've been lucky not to have a major item of significance. But that aside, it's still a mess. Every time our crew goes in there, there's a mess of accumulated garbage and broken toilet. Well, whatever people are discarding. Unfortunately, when you see garbage, people tend to dump more garbage onto it. So at some point, you have to eliminate all of the garbage. So that brings us to this. Okay. So the request that I'm seeing here that we receive this for information, but are we not pursuing?
This is for information only, and the information I have up to date here is that looks like I'll only be able to obtain one quote.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think then it's up to council then for the purchasing. We can continue to insist that we receive more quotes. We've heard from our fire chief his efforts in obtaining all three and just the one. So we can receive this and continue to pursue more quotes, or we can just go ahead with the work. Councillor Parkinson?
I think that we should go ahead with the work. He did receive two quotes, actually, when one person said, I won't give you any information. So that's two quotes as far as I'm concerned. And the third one hasn't replied back, so probably not interested. So I think that we should go forward with the cleanup. And it's within the budget that we stated it should be, right?
Yeah.
That's correct, through the chair. It is coming out of the contingency budget noted in the report. Yep. The only item here is that it'll be over 25,000, and in our current policy that should be out to a tender process. So I'm looking really for an exception just to go forward with the only company that's willing to do this work.
Yeah, when we talked about this at council at the last meeting, there was some other councillors that were present then had asked if this is deemed an emergency and could the emergency part of the policy kick in, and then it was determined that it isn't and that we would pursue this avenue. So I think the chief has done his part there. I think the correction, though, was that it wasn't the CO contingent. I thought we called it the district's operating contingency fund, but that's just an aside. We know that that is the actual fund that this would come from, so it falls within the budget implication. So, Councillor Parkinson, you've moved then to. Am I hearing that you moved that we pursue, or were you looking to do that?
Yes.
Okay, so
I did think that they said that it was coming out of the contingency fund as stated.
yes, but it's during the budget deliberations we determined it should be called the operating contingency fund, not CAO contingency fund.
Thank you. Correct.
So
I moved the recommendation.
okay, is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Loggins. So we're moving along. Any questions on this? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Okay, thank you very much, Chief. Please keep us updated accordingly as to signs and the like, if you don't mind. Okay. Next is 8.2, Wastewater Centrifuge RFQ update. I had wondered a bit about this piece of equipment because we had a rather fulsome conversation at a former council meeting about the centrifuge, and we had a delegation come to speak to it. And then we had requested more information and for Stantec, I believe, to do more. But in the meantime, I was wondering what's happening with it, and I was concerned that what if there's a breakdown to this, and where would that leave us? So that's where I just wanted council to be apprised as to, because you might be wondering what happened to this very important piece of our wastewater treatment plant. So I just wanted an update to come forward. So Mr. Howard, if you don't mind speaking a bit more to it, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just further on to Mr. Skidmore's emailed to Mayor and Council dated July 24th, just as an update. Due to circumstances arising from that rather robust council meeting with regards to the centrifuge, we realized as time went on that the time frame for accepting the quotes had expired. However, during that time, thanks to our operators, particularly one of the new operators, the centrifuge has been serviced. It's been running better than it ever has, and we have an ability to keep that centrifuge running until such time that we look at plant capacity and overall upgrade. We also are embarking on testing a method where we can take the existing centrifuge, and I can't get into the technical detail because I don't understand it that well, but the plant operators figured that they can get the centrifuge running half the time that it is running now, saving not only the life of the centrifuge until such time that plant upgrading is done, but also saving an intense amount of electrical power as well. And they're experimenting with that right at the moment. So the urgency of the centrifuge upgrade really isn't there right at this point in time.
Okay, Councillor Berger.
Thank you. And through you to Mr. Howitt, in reading the email from Mr. Skidmore, I was pleasantly shocked and surprised. And I think it's fantastic that we've got people on our staff that can get it in good operating order, as well as hearing that they can work with the digesters to break it down better and to make it run more efficiently. I think it's awesome. I think maybe from us through you to Mr. Skidmore, a thank you is in need, because we really did have a full conversation about what that looked like, and we were all trying to understand the mechanics of it. But I think this was a really great letter to receive, so thank you.
I agree. Okay, so if you could pass on our appreciation to Mr. Skidmore and the crew down at the plant, we really appreciate that. And in the meantime, we just need to receive this information, that email. Moved by Councillor Berger and seconded by Councillor Parkinson. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you. Okay, 8.3, placement of council chamber furniture. So I didn't want council or staff to have to put a real report together on it, because I think since we're all sitting here, we can look around. As you know, the chambers have been painted and staff have been reinstalling some of the artwork. The chain of office is very heavy, so we are waiting for one of our contractors just to hang it properly because it's heavy. I was up here with staff and we have our monarch on the wall, but apparently she does have to be hung either to the left or the right of the flags. So I didn't know that. I just thought it was a nice spot. So you'll see the Queen move into the proper, probably to where it was here. Now I can't remember if it's left or right, because is it my left and your right? I'm not sure. But anyway, there is protocol, and we want to make sure that we follow it. You may also know that the bookcases that were sitting over there with different, our sort of district collection has moved. It's out at the top of the landing when you come up the stairs. And so I kept meaning to say, hey, what do you think of that being there? And then the items that we have would be more visible to members of the public to view, because it belongs to the community. If they remain there, they need to be properly attached to the walls, because the bookcases there were not attached, so they would wobble a bit. The idea here was to have this a bit more open, so that when we have more staff, there's seating here for them. So I thought, since we're all here, the idea is I want to have this area back to how it should be for the September meeting. So I thought this was a good opportunity. We're all here. What do you think? Do you like the bookcases out there? Do you want them back? Anywhere else that they could go? We're a bit limited. Is there anything else you would like to see? It's our council. It's our chambers. Thoughts? I don't mind them out in the hallway. Councillor Loggins? Okay.
There was that age-friendly picture. Is that still in the hallway here, or is it downstairs?
It's downstairs.
Oh, okay. I thought I saw it, but I couldn't remember where. Thanks.
So I don't have my microphone on. Correspondence, I just wanted to touch on a few things. One of the members of the public commented on council hosting a Moonfist Day. It is something that I have thought about for a while now, and I've spoken with Moonfist, fire department, police department, other community volunteers, that perhaps in March, when sort of winter concludes, that I would proclaim a day, Moonfist Day, and the idea would be that everyone who is interested in participating would take care of their home or business first in the morning. Then we would all gather within Sooke, say just after lunch, and be dispatched to various areas around Sooke and do whatever we can as a community cleanup, and then have some sort of a barbecue. The staff sergeant suggested he would roll out the new barbecue that that council provided payment for, and then anyone could participate. The reason that time of the month was selected was in conversations with Moonfist himself. That's kind of when winter is done, but the result of winter, the sand and the garbage and all that, is sitting around for a bit. So we'll look to do that. So it was just great to also see a member of the public share the same sentiment, and then any future mayor can make the same, proclaim the same event year after year. And Moonfist always wanted to see, demonstrate how one person can make a difference within the community. I think this would really showcase that. So that is something that we'll look forward to organizing a little later the year. I'd like to thank the Chamber of Commerce and their very kind letter. It was nice to receive that. We don't always receive letters of appreciation, so appreciate receiving that. I know, but I'm still speaking. Jeez. Bears and garbage is ongoing. Council may realize that we did pass a motion last year about a waste management bylaw that is being developed right now, so we expect to reach something a bit further, and the other pieces I have are more related to the items that are not within the block. So are there any other comments on items within the first block? Councillor Berger.
Yes, thank you. There was an email from, I believe it's quite early here, from a lady wanting to extend a thank you to a Good Samaritan for directing traffic.
Yes.
So I'm just wondering if I actually was in I was rerouted that way, and it was just some random nice fellow helping to get people through the one lane bridge, and he did a wonderful job. So I'm just wondering if we could maybe send him a thank you card.
Yep. I think that's a great idea. So maybe if you can make that motion that we send a thank you card to the resident that assisted with traffic.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Berger. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Loggins. I would also like if staff could just print me off that particular letter as well, because it's something that I'm going to follow up with the Ministry of Transportation on. Perfect. Okay, all those in favor of the motion? Opposed? It's carried. Any other comments on the first section, 10.1? Councillor Loggins.
Yes, one thing I did want to speak to was the email about Moonfist Day, and I think that I liked the words that you said. I don't recall what the overall message was, but there is a higher message here. It's not just about someone doing roadside cleanup. It's volunteer appreciation. I think that it would be more important to make it a broader volunteer appreciation day. There are people who do adopt a highway programs and organizations in our community that do that as well. And mind you, they're not out there every day, but they do commit a lot of time and energy to doing that. And there are also organizations that do beach cleanups in our community as well. And in terms of timing, if it was something that you wanted to do, like an actual business, I like the idea of the business cleanup and the residential cleanup, that sort of thing. Timing it around Communities in Bloom might be beneficial as well, because then it's getting everyone proud of the community around the same time. I don't think it matters really, but that was just a thought. But I do think it would be important to make it a larger vision.
Thank you, Councillor Loggins. Anything else from that first set? Okay, so motion to receive the correspondence. Moved by Councillor Berger, second by Councillor Loggins. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. 10.2, we have support for the federal legislation regarding abandoned vessels, and there is a support request. One of our MPs is putting together its bill, federal bill C-35-2, and they have put together a draft template for us to respond with. And just given the CRD is applying for a grant right now to look at removing derelict vessels from around the region, but this would provide a bit more strength to it actually, because it is in federal jurisdiction. So there is a motion posted there. Council encourages Parliament to adopt Bill C-352, an act to amend the Canada Shipping Act 2001 and provide for the development of a national strategy for abandoned vessels, which would fix vessel registration, pilot a vessel turn-in program, create good green jobs by supporting local marine salvage businesses and vessel recycling, and make the Coast Guard responsible for directing the removal of abandoned vessels, and that Council directs staff to complete and send the endorsement letter with the above motion. Moved by Councillor Berger, seconded by Councillor Loggins. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. There is a request for a resolution on an EV charging. This will come up at the UBCM, so I just sort of saw it as an item to receive, since it's going to be debated likely at the event. Oh, here we go. So, received the letter dated July 27th from Metro Vancouver for information regarding the upcoming UBCM conference and the resolution. Moved by Councillor Berger, seconded by Councillor Loggins. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. And then we have our Wild Coast Expo. So we've heard and had a bit of a conversation with the Chamber President. And so looking to Council now as to how you would like to move forward with this.
The Council approves support to the Sooke Region Chamber of Commerce. For the two.
Yes, thank you. I liked it before where it just said we approve support because we don't know if we want to provide any further support. So just by giving a letter, I mean, we can do that both, but I would really like to get the information back once the Expo starts to evolve, and then maybe there's something that the district wants to get involved in rather than just, yes, we support you.
Through your worship, I understood that they wanted a letter or that the district supports them in principle for the event that they're putting on, so that they know that they have our support in that regards. And then when they have their information, they're going to come back again and give it to us. Am I correct? Perfect. Okay.
Yeah, so we suspect, what I sort of heard the same. This then, as they go out and look for other partners, they know that the district is supporting them in this initiative, that we're all very excited about it, and then we'll receive further information, and then we can see what sort of we've been offered a booth, what that looks like, what elements of the district would we want to showcase at this, and so forth, who's available, and then what the sponsorships levels look like. So same sort of idea. Okay, so that's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Scabers. Item 11, Council and CAO reports. Does anyone have any items that they would like to share at this moment in time? Councillor Berger?
Thank you. I'll just speak briefly to the development workshop that was held last week. It was really good to get a wide variety of input from a pretty diverse group of people. I'm looking forward to us moving forward, hopefully on a more, how do I want to put this? Well, just with more direct measurables. I mean, sometimes it's really hard when you're working in working groups and you have 13 people in a room trying to come up with exactly what you need to have delivered. I think it spoke loud and clear from the people that were there as well as staff that we could refresh our applications, our policies, and our bylaws, because some of them are really quite old. So I would really love to see it. I mean, my suggestion at the workshop was that I thanked everyone for attending, and I thought it was fantastic, but I think it's going to be very hard to really get measurable, concrete information out of such a large group. So going forward, I hope that it's a bit more agenda sort of orientated with really direct measurables, which I think will work too from the information that was given. But for you guys that weren't there reading all of this, I mean, I can see where Councillor Logan sort of came up with, well, what's the next step? And we did talk about what sort of threats that can be proposed if things didn't follow through. So I'm rambling a little bit, but going forward, I would really like to see it sort of far more. It's hard. I mean, it's great that so many people want to be involved, but I think that we've really got some work to do, and I would like to see that work just get done. So be a bit more direction orientated would be my hope for the next coming sessions, because I think that we've got really great momentum right now with wanting there to be cohesive collaboration between staff, the development community, moving everything forward. We talked about our census and how we're growing at a rapid rate and how we really want to put our best foot forward. And if we sort of set people up to succeed, we set Sooke up to succeed. So that was sort of loud and clear, and it was really refreshing to hear that. So it was a great workshop. I'm just really hoping that we can keep the momentum going and really get some direction and get some new policies and that from the next group. So that's it.
Great. So I will just touch on that. We all hear different things when it comes to our building and development. I hear a very large spectrum. I see people blaming different elements. I see sometimes it falling on staff. Other times it's council, and then I hear it's actually the developers themselves or their consultants. And so this was a way to get a very variety, because if it's the same people all the time, you get the same results. And I saw that unfortunately happen with the Land Use Committee. They were supposed to address all of this, and now I hear the same people raising the same thing. So forming the same group to deal with the same thing over and over again isn't going to get anywhere. So this is where you get a cross-section and some more insight. But it did create a number of to-dos with a focus on what the next piece will look like. And I imagine there's going to be disagreement potentially on where that will be. In terms of flow charts and the like, a lot of that work has already been done by staff. I just don't know how available it is or how known it is to members of the public. But I remember seeing drafts quite some time ago. So like there's flow charts and a lot of really great guides to this. I mean, this is a tremendous amount of work that is put into this, and I just don't know how, if people are even looking at it or finding it useful, but a significant amount of time and effort went into something that I feel, unfortunately, a great tool that might have been lost somewhere in the overall process. So when people were speaking about different things, it was difficult for me visually to comprehend what their issue was. So that's where, if we're all looking at the same flow chart, it's like, okay, here's where we're finding things are being hung up on. We can all agree on this part, but this is where it is. This workshop or committee cannot make any decisions as to the process. They can just provide recommendations that come to council. So the intent was to get the information out and available quickly. So that's where this workshop was held last week, and staff have already put all of this information together and have it out to council and to the participants going forward. So it gives people time to pause and reflect and to hopefully take some good ideas back to the next meeting. And then it was broken down into smaller working groups. And ideally at the next one, I'd like to see different people sit with other people to hear a different perspective and to hash things out a bit more so that we can get some insight quickly and to hopefully resolve, or maybe the shoe fits and it's fine. I'd like to know that as well. Some of it has been fine. So we'll see how that comes to be. In terms of our health facility, it's been a busy summer. A lot of it is obtaining the appropriate statistical data for Sooke. So I've received information from to put together a framework that was supported. Support came from the CRD Hospital Board. We my primary health working group put together a framework, ideally of what we would like to see here in Sooke based on current service and growing population needs. Now I've been meeting with Island Health and getting their statistical data, but it's all very different. So for example, we were looking at emergency room visits and whether somebody arriving at emergency is attached to a physician or unattached. And so they say majority of people are attached. But does that mean that you are attached locally in Sooke, or are you still visiting a doctor on the mainland? There's no differentiation as to where your GP resides. So I know a lot of residents have moved here, but because our facility here is so busy, they remain attached to their GP in another community, another province, and that is still deemed to be as attached. So that's the part that's a bit different. I'm considered attached. I live and work in Sooke, but my physician is in Saanich, but I'm still attached when I arrive at emergency. So it still doesn't help improve the situation for people that are not finding care here. Also, in terms of stats, we're sort of the health area for Sooke includes Langford. So we have to look at what Sooke region is. So it's manipulating the data in a way that makes sense and is fully supported. They have told me up front that there's no funding. Island Health has been short funding for a long time. There's other areas that they deem a priority, and I totally get that, but I'm advocating for Sooke, not for other areas. And so that puts me in a position now to work more with the province in terms of what do they feel are the barriers to us having an updated facility here. I know it's a priority under our new government, so I look forward to meeting with the Minister of Health and the Premier, and I've already sent some information along. and to see where that goes. So ongoing with Island Health, and I'm meeting with a group of physicians in September, and then continuing onwards. So a lot of work is happening, and unfortunately I just don't really have much to show for it aside from what I'm updating you on, but it's considerable amount of work is always ongoing. And it just seems that health has just not been a priority of the government for quite some time, and that is a challenge for us. And they were looking at, for example, we have different statistical data. I'm looking at what was recent census data, so 2016 data, and looking at the growth of our area since roughly incorporation 2002. It's a 48% increase in population. They were looking at 2011 census and how that increase was over 2006. So it's like we're not even looking through the same lens. But when I see, and then we're receiving OCP updates that tell us that we need to accommodate another 13,000 people within our community in 20 years. They don't have that projection like we do. I'm looking at the aging and demographics, and our challenge is completely different. So it's now trying to get more focused. So I have a lot of great assistance with this, and it's something that obviously continue advocating on. I know we're not the only community, but I'm here to champion mine and not everyone else. That's up to their areas. So it'll be ongoing as it is. Sooke Music Festival happened on the weekend, a great success in John Phillips Park right next to us, really great turnout. Apparently there was only about 6 or so vendors the first year it kicked off, up to 38 or so this year. Great lineup of people, fundraising event for families, to the food bank and to the soccer field. So I think both went over really well. And I checked off one for the bucket list in the dunk tank. Dunked twice, second time, thanks to our CAO. And yeah, would I do that again? I don't know. It was kind of stressful actually, but at least it's over. So it's all fun. It was the first round were kids, you know, and our bylaw officer took a dunk after I did and was sunk by the same future baseball superstar. We have some great athletic talent here, that's for sure. So that was very interesting. But a lot happening in town, and I look forward to just the rains and a more safe rest of the summer for us all to enjoy. So on that note, we'll keep moving along. Is there anything else from anybody at this point? No? Anything from staff at this point? No? We're all good? Okay, so there's no notices of motion. So we do need to reconvene the in-camera portion of our meeting. So we'll just look then that we close to the public under Section 91, C, G, and K, Section 92B of the Community Charter pertains to labor, employee relations, litigation, potential litigation, negotiations, related discussion of their preliminary stages, and information received in confidence. All those in favor? Opposed? And motion's carried.